Long before costumes, masks, and the chilling fun of Halloween ever even existed, the tradition would all begin with Samhain, a Celtic festival marking the death of summer and the birth of winter. Historically, Samhain's origins trace back well over 2,000 years to the Iron Age Celts of Ireland, Scotland, and the Isle of Man, which thrived circa 750 BCE to 100 CE, and who believed that the turning of the seasons was not just a calendar event, but a spiritual threshold, and the final harvest before the earth grew barren and cold. Incidentally, the Celts divided their year into two halves, being the light and the dark, and Samhain would fall at the midpoint right between the autumn equinox and winter solstice, which generally landed on October 31st. Samhain was a liminal time when the barrier between the living and the dead grew incredibly thin enough for other things to cross over. And to combat this darkness, villages would light huge fires both to ward off the night and any wandering souls or demons that traveled with it. Livestock was collected, crops were gathered, and communities would feast before the long cold of winter. During this time, food and drink were often left at the thresholds of homes to appease the spirits, and through this practice, trick-or-treating was born. But not all visitors on Samhain were welcomed ones, and folklore also describes darker beings including fairies, banshees, wraiths, and demons that moved in the night as well. It was said that mortals who crossed paths with these manifestations could be taken for years, returned changed forever, or were sometimes just outright killed. Samhain wasn't just a season, but through the Middle Ages was often interpreted as a presence, a shadowy, sentient force or a great horned spirit, wreathed in smoke and sometimes crowned in flame, with eyes burning not much differently than our present-day Halloween pumpkins. During the Middle Ages, from circa the 6th to 12th century CE, people would begin disguising themselves in animal skins and masks to confuse the spirits, and the tradition of guising or dressing up in costume would come into being. And as Christianity spread across the globe, the church would absorb Samhain rituals into All Hallows' Eve. The tradition of gourds or turnips being carved into makeshift lanterns wouldn't arise until much later, until circa the 1600s or so, when people began cutting grotesque faces into what they called jack-o'-lanterns. And when large numbers of Irish immigrants began arriving to America through the 19th century, these traditions found their way into US households everywhere. Over time, the memory of Samhain was split, partly into history and partly as myth, and the old festival would grow to become known as Halloween. Some say that Samhain, the ancient spirit of darkness, still comes around with the turning of the leaves, watching from the edge of the firelight, and we carve his face into our pumpkins, light our lanterns, and wear masks not just for fun, but to keep him from finding us until dawn burns his season away once more. And that's why